friends, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. If you had known how many times I've tried to film this video today, you would just be thinking I should have thrown in the towel a long time ago, but I am bound and determined to review these paints for you because I've had so many people request a review of the Van Gogh student paints. They are an affordable line of student paints in the same price point as like the Cotmans or Grumbacher Academy or Aquafine. So I thought since I was placing a supply order for my business, I threw a few tubes of these paints in my basket, and online I could see what the pigments were in the paints before I bought them, so I chose to pick colors from a split primary palette, meaning a warm and cool version of each primary, and then a yellow, ochre, and sap green because I happen to like those colors, and they were also single pigments. So that I could get a good mix from them, get a good real feel for the line, and decide whether or not I thought they were a good buy. So first off, I want to show you the tubes. They are 10 milliliters, and that's a little bit bigger than other student brands. Usually the student lines like Cotman and Grumbacher Academy, I believe, are 7 milliliters or 7.5 milliliters for about $5. And I was actually able to find these for $2.50 a tube, and you can find them pretty much any online art supply store that you shop from, and a lot of in-store like brick and mortar shops carry this because it is a popular brand and it's fairly easy to find throughout the world. So hopefully this will help folks that are looking for an affordable student paint that's comparable to Cotman. And I know a lot of fine artists that use the Van Gogh line as well, so I don't think you'll have any problems. Most of these are very light fast, and you can see the pigments they use are the customary pigments that you're used to seeing in your fine art watercolors. And I specifically chose my primaries based on their, not only their bias, like this Prussian blue obviously is biased to green, and the ultramarine is obviously biased to purple. So I looked at the colors, and then I also made sure I chose ones that were single pigment. And then what I usually do when I'm testing out a new line of paint, I'm not sure where I'm going to put it, especially the student colors, I'll just put them on the edge of a plate, and I will use that plate for mixing, and then I can decide what I'm going to do with them. Because typically with my student grade colors, I will put them in my travel paint box, and if a student runs out of paint while I'm teaching, rather than them going without or having to share with their neighbor, I'll just give them a little squirt of this, and then they'll have it until they use it up, which works out really well. So I like to have that on hand. Plus, I teach, and I use student colors when I'm teaching beginners, because I don't want them to feel that I'm using some fancy paint and they're using beginner paint, and that's why their work might not be working out. So I like to teach with what my students are using. So you can see the colors are nice and vibrant, and what I did was I began by drawing squares and doing a flat wash of each color in each square, and then I let that dry, and I let it dry overnight, which is important. It's very important with student paints to let your glazes dry properly. And then I went and filled in half the box with another layer of paint, so you can kind of see how it would glaze. And then I didn't let it dry a day, but I let it dry probably about a couple hours, and then I went over with a third glaze. And here's where you kind of run into problems with student paint, and it's not specifically this paint, it's pretty much across the board because of the fillers that are used in student paint, which makes it very good for lifting and correcting your mistakes, and why it's really kind of awesome for students. But it also wants to lift up what you've done underneath, and you can really see that in the ultramarine, which is a very liftable granulating color anyway. But even in my quinacridone rose, it was lifting up the colors underneath. I don't know if that picks up on camera or not, but I was using a very soft brush and just going over with a swipe, and it wanted to pick up that paint underneath. So I would say probably if you're using a student paint, I would limit it to like one glaze, so that you don't end up lifting what you have underneath, and use a very soft brush. But anyway, this is what these colors look like, and I wanted to compare them with swatches of other student brands that are in that same price point, so that if you're trying to decide between the two, or you're wondering if what you have is comparable to what somebody else is using, you kind of have that information. So I'm going to start off by comparing it with the most popular student brand of watercolor, the Cotman watercolor, which is by Winsor & Newton. And this is all the colors that they offer. They had a pretty good deal on Amazon on their 45 half pan set. There's 40 colors in the line, and so you do get some duplicates in that set, but we can compare all of our colors here. So ultramarine, we got an ultramarine right here on the end. Very similar. I actually think I like the granulation on the Van Gogh a little bit better. We've got Prussian blue right there. I think I like the Van Gogh Prussian Blue better than the Cotman Prussian Blue. And these were right from pans, and these were from tube paints that I had let dry in my palette, so it's fairly similar. And then we've got our Lemon to Lemon, although they are different pigments. The hue is very close, and that Azul Yellow is very similar to the Cad Yellow Pale Hue. It's warm. It's still warmer. I would say it's definitely still more orangey than it is greeny, but it is actually a fairly neutral blue, neutral yellow. And then I use quinacridone Rose, which do I have a quinacridone? I have the permanent Rose, which uses the same pigment. So that one would be right there. So that's pretty darn close. And we have permanent Red Light, which isn't the exact color, but pretty darn close to Cadmium Red Hue. Okay, so very comparable. There's our Yellow Ochre. You know, very, very comparable. The Sap Green, they're a little different, but comparable, okay? Different but equal, I say. And then let's also compare with another really popular one that I like, a Grumbacher Academy. These run for under $5, a 7 milliliter tube, and I find them to be very compatible. So that Carmine is the same pigment as the Quin Rose, but Quin Rose is a little bit more intense. I have a turquoise rather than a Prussian Blue. I did get an ultramarine there, very comparable. The Azo Yellow Light's kind of like the Cad Yellow hue, just like in the other, and the Grumbacher Yellow is very similar to the Permanent Lemon. And the Sap Green, I don't like the Grumbacher Sap Green as much as the Van Gogh Sap Green, but again, extremely comparable. You definitely could use them interchangeably. And then the other brand in that price point that I have to kind of check against is one I don't really care for myself. It's the Aquafine by Daler-Rowney, but I want to disclaim the fact that this Aquafine, I've had it for a long time. I didn't actually even know I had it. I must have picked it up in a bargain bin or something because it was in the bottom of my drawer, and I hadn't really used it much, but I did swatch it out, and you can see the telltale signs of lots of filler here, where you see this granulation on colors that really shouldn't be granulating. This is PG7. They call it Viridian Hue, but that's really a phthalo green, and you can see all this granulation, and that's not proper granulation. What that is filler, and you can see how rough and pucky that these colors look. I mean, it makes a pretty gray when I did the burnt sienna and the ultramarine blue, because it's got that really cool texture, which would be beautiful for rocks, but all in all, I find it to be very icky. And there's a couple of pigments here that are very fugitive that are not recommended for artistic work, such as the alizarin crimson PR83 and the Cad Yellow Hue, which is a PY1, which most companies aren't even using anymore. Now, I do want to disclaim that I've had that. I don't know how long those paints have been in my stash. They're definitely older, they're definitely over 10 years old. So I just wanted to put that out there so you know. But I was not impressed with that. Some people that have gotten the pan set say they really like this line. So don't just take my word for it. If you're interested in those paints, just search out reviews, and other people that have more recent sets can tell you and show you what they have. So I don't like to poop on anyone's party. That's just what I had for those colors, and I wasn't very pleased with them. But I would say this is very comparable to the Cotman and the Grumbacher Academy line of paints, and they're all in the same price point. I do think the Van Gogh might be a little bit better of a value because you get 10 milliliter tubes versus 7 milliliter tubes for about the same price. And like I said, I paid $2.50 a tube, and usually on sale you can get the Cotmans. I think all of them are about retail $5 for a 7 or a 10 milliliter tube. So I'm going to show you some of the work that I did with them. Nothing too fancy. I just did some very quick things. I was playing with my the new waterproof ink that came with my Cutalola Dots pen, which is just like a stippling pen. You can see it here. You press the button. This is kind of cool, actually. You press the button, and the tip goes in and out and makes little dots on your work, and you press it twice, then it goes like super fast. So if you're an illustrator, it really saves time. And they just came out with a bunch of waterproof ink cartridges for it so that you could do pen and ink and watercolor. So that was kind of exciting, and I was just playing with that. I didn't let it dry long enough on this one, and it did smear a little bit, but this is with the colored ink, and then I did the watercolor wash over, and this is with the black ink and the watercolor wash. The paints are a little bit more opaque than an artist quality, which is completely typical with the student quality paints. I would say it's right about the same as Cotman or Grumbacher Academy. And then I just did a traditional watercolor, and I did film it, but I didn't voice it over. So if anybody is interested, I'd probably just do a speed paint. I tried to do so many different things today, and nothing was turning out. It was one of those, like, I could not put pen to paper and make it look decent today if my life depended on it. It's just one of those days. So if you're interested, I would do this. I would speed it up though, because it wasn't very interesting, I gotta tell you. So this is just a little 15-minute sketch with the paints, but the flow was okay. It didn't flow crazy, but it was very on par to student paint. I think it is definitely as good as a Cotman or as good as a Grumbacher Academy, better than the Aquafine, and a pretty good value. I would definitely recommend it for my students, and I would bring it along with me, and I would definitely buy more ultramarine and the basic 6 primary colors that I could refill my students' palettes with if they ran low during a class. I think it's a solid brand, and if you're looking for student quality paint, it's definitely one to look for. I would say Cotman, Grumbacher Academy, and Van Gogh, all definitely solid brands. And you can do your research online and make sure that you get single pigment colors so that you can mix the most vivid pure colors that you can, because when you're using student paints, it's very easy to get into mud if you're not careful, and that helps you avoid it. Plus, by sticking with a split primary palette, those 6 colors, the 3 primaries but a warm and a cool of each, then you will really learn to mix your colors. Now, the one other thing I just want to say right now, so on sale I was able to get these 8 tubes of paint for $20, right? Okay, so if I was paying full price, $5 a tube, that would cost $40. And instead of spending $40 on 8 tubes of these paint, what I would do is I would spend $40 on the 6 essential colors of Daniel Smith paints. Now that's going to be smaller. The tubes are half as big, but I did notice like my paint wore down quite a bit when I was painting with it, and like with the Daniel Smith, which is an artist quality. And I'm just saying I could say replace whatever artist quality paint you happen to like. I'm just saying that just because they have that little 6 color set for $30 on Amazon. That's the only reason I'm saying Daniel Smith. I do like it, but I think if you're going to spend $30 in Van Gogh paints, you may be better off to spend $30 on the Daniel Smith 6 color essential set and get a better quality paint that will be more transparent, that may suit you much better in the long run. But by no means am I saying not to buy this if this isn't great for what it is. It totally is. It's a nice paint for the price. You can't really beat it for $2.50 a 10 milliliter tube. And you know, I think retail is probably $4 or $5 on these. But anyway, they're solid value. As far as student paint goes, they're great. And I hope this review helped you. I know that not everybody lives in the United States where we can get anything we want anytime we want it and delivered to us in 2 days. So I want to be really mindful of that and keep people's budgets and where they live in mind so that they can have painting fun too, because that's why I'm here, to paint with you and have fun. And hopefully tomorrow when I pick up my brush, I'll be able to do something better than I did today. But if you did want to see that, let me know and I'll do a quick speed paint for you. Thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you like painting reviews or paint reviews. And until next time, happy crafting.